Hello, welcome back. So today we are going to continue on the all-time records series with the Chicago Blackhawks. I always find that when I look at the original six teams, it is a little bit more interesting to look into than newer teams because there are long periods of history that, like for myself, I didn't actually realize that the Chicago Blackhawks history went the way it did, which kind of gave me a few surprising numbers. And that's one thing that I like about doing this series is looking into this kind of stuff, because I know the Blackhawks as they either do well or they don't type history. So they through the 2010s they were a very very dominant team, especially the early 2010s. They had the cups in 2010, 2013, 2015. So that's a pretty storied and successful era for them. But there's a lot of eras that they've gone through that weren't quite so successful. So they've been around for 95 seasons. So in the next 5 seasons, they'll be celebrating 100 years, which is cool. They've had 63 playoff appearances, which is a really high percentage. I think the only one with a higher percentage is the Boston Bruins. But with the original six teams, they had a lot of playoff appearances in times where a lot of teams in the league made the playoffs, right? So if you had, say 12 teams and 8 of them made the playoffs, that's where some of these numbers are going to come from, whether the team was good or not. Of those playoff appearances, they do have 6 Stanley Cups. 3 of them, again, came in the 2010s. They do have 6 retired numbers. They are 1, 3, 9, 18, 21, and 35. And they have positive records against 19 teams. Now, the reason that I find that interesting is because they've had 6,642 regular season games played. Of those, 2,840 are wins, 2,803 are losses, 814 are ties, and 185 of them are overtime losses. So total wins are as is. Again, total losses are combined between any result outside of a win. And then you come out with a win percentage of 43%. So this is tied for second lowest, and there's only one lower that we've looked into the series so far as win percentages. So the fact that you have a positive record against a good portion, like about 2/3 of the league, that surprises me. And the Anaheim Ducks, they're only a handful shy. Two more wins and they're a positive team against the Anaheim Ducks. Same thing with the Carolina Hurricanes. So that just means that in times when these newer teams didn't exist, they went through a lot of losses to the same teams. Now, when we look at a breakdown of the entire win-loss records against other teams, the Arizona Coyotes, they have 5 out of 7 teams with a positive record. The only 2 that they don't currently is Colorado and Minnesota. And again, a good bounce back season, and that's positive records against the entire division. I don't really foresee that changing in the next couple years, being that the Colorado Avalanche, at the time of this recording, are competing for the Stanley Cup against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Minnesota Wild are a team that is getting better right now. So Chicago is going to have their work cut out to improve their records against those teams. The nice thing is they do have a bit of a cushion for every other team. So even if they have a couple more years of not so great regular season performances, they should still maintain winning records against those teams. Now, when I look at these records, the first thing that points out is that Chicago likes playing against Eastern teams, and it's the top 4 teams are 2 Atlantic, 2 Metro Division teams, boasting basically well, Florida's are just under 60%, but 4 teams over 60%. That's not bad. Um, the Arizona Coyotes and the Edmonton Oilers. The Coyotes don't really surprise me because the Coyotes haven't really been a team that's been hugely successful. They've had a couple pretty good spots in their history, but the Edmonton Oilers, like in the 80s, heyday there, and Chicago and Edmonton have seen each other a lot. The only teams that are really standing out as more than that, you've got the Calgary Flames, and then original 6 teams basically. So the fact that they have a good record against the Oilers didn't really shock me, but I wasn't expecting to find that. Now, let's see. Let's do a quick thumb through all this. So, because Chicago has seen Seattle 3 times, they're actually dead even on their points percentage, but they only actually have 1 win in those 3 games. This is why NHL 500 drives me nuts, because you actually have a losing record against that team, but you're tied. But their solution for that 3rd point was for more meaningful games at the end of the regular season, rather than keeping the records accurate with each other. So, but whatever, I digress. Now, with the Golden Knights, I see down at the bottom. So they're 3-6-0-3 against the Golden Knights. So that's a .375 percentage. So outside of any team that's lost out to Seattle this year, I think that's one of the lower percentages against teams. Luckily for Chicago, they have not, or Vegas didn't move into the Central when Seattle came in, because that wouldn't be good news for Chicago, apparently. Down second from the bottom is the Montreal Canadiens, so another original 6 teams. So they've had 570 games played between each other, and that really has not gone well for Chicago. I see .378. So with the Golden Knights, it's a small sample size over a handful of years, but the Montreal Canadiens, a history that goes back 95 seasons, and your percentage is that low. Chicago really must not enjoy having to deal with Montreal when they do. Same thing with the Philadelphia Flyers. So they have 144 games, and they've got a .441. So that tells you that doesn't go well for them either. What is interesting to me, though, is that the goal differential is only 20 goals over those 144 games. So typically that tells me that when they meet up, and the narrative is generally going to be that the Flyers will probably beat out the Chicago Blackhawks, but the scores aren't going to run away on each other. The Detroit Red Wings, so that appears to be the team that Chicago has seen the most, at 749 games played, and yeah, at a .455. So it appears to be about, yeah, it appears that typically the score between those games is going to be a bit more out of control. Boston Bruins at 594 games. They typically have Chicago's number. Toronto Maple Leafs, same thing. So of the original 6 teams, it looks like the only team here. Let me take a quick peek. Where are the Rangers? Yeah, it seems like a regular season success in a nutshell from Chicago's record is that they are the team that struggled the most from that original era. But other than that, yeah, they just kind of they've got a little bit of everything everywhere. So kind of like I think it was Carolina. They kind of have a shotgun of teams. There's no really groupings of teams that they do well or poorly against, other than the fact that the original 6 teams have so many games played, and the rules for talent distribution and this and that have changed so much. But all in all, if you've got winning records against 19 teams, that's nothing to scoff at. I would take that absolutely as a win and go, hey, at least you're staying competitive and in the mix. There's not a whole lot that stands out. Going through the records, so I see that against the Sabres, Chicago actually has a negative goal differential, but they have a winning record against them. Yeah, and nothing that really stands out. The Islanders, there's a negative goal differential there, but they have a winning record. And that seems to surprise me. I knew that I was going to see some of that where teams that typically lose will lose bigger than, and when they win, it's a small win as far as goals scored goes. But I didn't think I'd see it this many times. Seattle Kraken is, yeah, so they're again 500 as far as NHL points, but am I reading that correctly? Oh no, but they do have a negative goal differential. It's only by 1 and it's across 3 games, so that's obviously going to change. But I mean, it's an interesting little snapshot. So, so yeah, that was a look at the Chicago Blackhawks history. I didn't realize that as far as regular season success goes, they're one of the lower teams. I know that as far as playoff success goes, they're not the worst team, but there's obviously like the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs. They kind of walked away with a lot of championships during that original 6 and early expansion era time. I do believe right now the Boston Bruins and the Chicago Blackhawks have the same number of Stanley Cups, if I'm remembering correctly. So I would think that as far as playoff success goes, it would go Montreal, Toronto, Detroit, Chicago, and Boston, kind of wherever you want to put them. And then you've got the New York Rangers kind of bringing up the tail end. But as far as regular season success, I would say that Chicago's probably in that same area. So they're the middling team of the era. So there's that. You know, you don't really stand out. You're not the best, not the worst. I'm the kind of person, I'll take that. But yeah, let me know what you think about Chicago's record against teams. Did anything stand out as surprising to you? Is there anything about the Chicago Blackhawks history that you may know about that you'd like to share as a fun fact? Let us know down in the comments below. I am on Twitter. I am trying to get better about this. At CPTJohnny15 because Captain Johnny wouldn't fit. The next video that's going to be coming out will be Colorado, and I'm very much looking forward to that because apparently I should do divisional teams one after the other. So yeah, until the next video, stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. If you like the video, please drop a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And yeah, thank you and all the best.